What is up, y'all? We are back with another Final Destination Bloodlines video, and today we're going to be kind of getting a little bit into what could potentially happen with Final Destination Bloodlines and some details that we've seen with the trailer that can definitely lead us into the plot. But before we get into it, definitely smash the like button because it definitely helps, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Once again, that trailer did such a great job. It really got me ready and prepared to see this movie. Now, pushing forward, we see this character think is going to be the main character, being Stephanie. I think she's going to be the one that has a lot of these premonitions and, you know, similar to Kimberly in Final Destination 2. I think she's going to be that type of character. We see that she's related to the older woman. I think that's going to be her grandmother, I want to say. And then she has someone she's related to named Charlie. We saw a lot of people she's related to actually through this family tree. On this paper that we've seen, it has a lot of names. It even has the guy Eric from the tattoo parlor with the nose ring. Now, pushing forward, it kicks off with this barbecue, and a lot of people are going crazy about it because we see like this sharp piece of glass in the cup. We see the lawnmower following the older guy. Speaking of the older guy, we actually see that that's actually Eric's dad. We see a picture on his phone as his screensaver of him and the guy. So when he says that he lost his dad and he was giving himself a tattoo with the dad word on his arm, he actually lost him in that barbecue, if that actually is real. Because one thing I will say I noticed about this trailer, they actually did a great job with picking the scenes, because a lot of them seems that they can be premonitions, especially from the barbecue scene. I think that's going to be Stephanie's first premonition that can actually lead to her going to seek help with her grandmother, and that's when her grandmother tells her about everything that happened in the 60s or the 70s when they're on that tower or whatever, and it starts burning, and she ends up saving people's lives, and she cheats death, and now it's pushed through to another generation of people, being some of them are her grandkids in her bloodline. Now, she also gives her this premonition guideline book, and in this book we see the truck with the logs, we see a layout of the plane, and it seems like this is a safety guide to basically cheat death. Is showing you how to get past without getting caught up in that situation. And once you kind of look, it literally breaks everything down on how to get out the situations, from the truck, the airplane, and everything with the previous Final Destination situations. One thing I want to say is that I noticed once we seen the truck and the airplane, it calls back to Final Destination 1. That's surrounding Devin Sawa as Alex and Claire, and then in Final Destination 2 we got Thomas Burke and we had Kimberly. A lot of people are saying that they think Kimberly is going to be in this film, which I think so also. I think she's going to have a cameo, but I think they're going to focus on those two movies. I think the first two movies are going to play a huge part in this, connecting back to those premonitions. I think from the moment we saw the flashback with the grandmother and her premonitions, I think that it's going to just really bleed through Alex's premonition. I think it's going to bleed through Kimberly's, and it's going to all connect back to the grandmother. Now, pushing forward, one thing I do want to say is I think we're going to get more flashbacks where it explains a lot of things that happened in the previous Final Destination movies that connects the dots back to square one with the grandmother. And then we also see in a trailer that we see like a truck passes by with a bed of logs on it, showing that, you know, it's a Death's original design, like Tony Todd said in the previous films, that you cannot escape Death's original design, meaning that in the first one, Alex was originally supposed to get took out on that plane with him and his friends. I think that a lot of those deaths that was supposed to happen, like the plane, the log scene with Kimberly, I think that those are going to come back to the sixth film, being Final Destination Bloodlines, and they have to occur to make sure that Death's original design is completed. So I will not be surprised if, yeah, we're getting new deaths on screen, but a lot of the deaths that we're seeing are callbacks to the previous films, being that maybe they got to fulfill a certain amount of heads to fulfill Death's original design on the airplane. Maybe some people have to get took out on the airplane. Maybe, you know, someone with a premonition has to get took out by logs. I think that it's actually going to be something where it's going to be a death where it's going to be a callback to the log scene, the airplane scene, just because once once again, those are very iconic deaths that we know about, but they were never completed with the main characters being Kimberly and Alex. So I think that we can see that. Now, pushing forward, we see this guy named Eric. Now, I didn't notice right away, but now I found out that he actually did not get hit by that truck. It's a little piece of space that shows that the truck just passed him up. But one thing, if you look closely and you notice, he has a bandage on his arm from where he just got the tattoo. So that actually shows that he indeed potentially could have survived the tattoo parlor scene. I know it sounds crazy because his nose ring gets hooked to the fan and everything, and it just goes from there. I thought that was going to be his last time right there, just him being took up by the fan. But once you see the bandage on his arm, that little piece in that scene shows you that once he's in the middle of that street, that kind of gives me the vibe that's the ending of the movie, that his death is going to be the one to close out the film. You know how Final Destination does it sometimes, almost like how it was in Final Destination 1 when he gets hit by the sign where Clear and them are sitting at the table. I think that it's going to be something similar to that potentially. Like maybe he ducks the first truck and then another truck just completely runs him over the way it's shot, but I can be wrong. But yeah, it seems to be that he actually gets out of the situation with the nose ring. That seems so crazy. But, and also with the barbecue, back to where we seeing them with the barbecue scene and everything, I want to say this. I don't even think that that could potentially happen, because we see a scene with them being in the living room. We see the guy that actually jumps on the trampoline, and it looks like he was getting injured once his leg went through the trampoline. But we see a scene with them in the living room, and Stephanie seems to be explaining to them everything about the bloodline and the premonition and everything, and he seems to still be alive. A few of them actually seem to have survived. So maybe it was a premonition like how Alex's premonition was in the first Final Destination, where she warns her friends and she saves them, similar to how her grandmother did in the past. And now it's really getting bad with everything, with death hunting them and having this original design. We see something that Tony Todd says about embracing death and everything. That's the only way you can pass it, is basically just, you know, embracing it. I think that's it's going to play a big part in Final Destination Bloodlines. I do have a feeling that the premonitions that were from the past are going to get passed down to like Stephanie and possibly some other people in this film that may have premonitions. Maybe Stephanie's the only one that have it, but I think that they're going to get passed down because it's been years later. The grandmother's involved, and I think that they have to be completed. I think it's going to be possibly multiple premonitions. Overall, I think it's going to be crazy, especially with everything just leading back to that moment with her being on that tower and it's connected to Kimberly, Alex, Sam, Nick, Wendy. I think that is going to be one of the best Final Destinations, and just having William Bloodworth in it, and can't wait to see what he has to say about the whole situation and getting him prepared with everything. I think it's a great way to have Tony Todd be sent off, because he has some of the most craziest roles in Final Destination. And yeah, I think that the whole thing with this is going to go back to that moment in time between Stephanie and her grandmother. And like I said, I think that guideline book is going to help them, but also it's going to have them be put in a position where they're very tangled with situations and they get stuck in a lot of situations. Overall, I cannot wait to see what happens with Final Destination Bloodlines, and I'm so pumped for this movie. I will be going to see this in IMAX. I cannot wait. Comment down below how you all feel about everything with Stephanie, her being like the new main character, showing the premonitions through her, trying to make sure her friends and family are saved, and yeah, see how she kind of goes about things. How do you feel about that? Comment down below. Unfortunately, this is the end of this video. I want y'all to hit me up on all my social medias at ILIKESCARY, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.